Welcome, everyone. We're delighted to have a Foundation Forum call today with Elli Booch, Director of Philanthropy at the Edmond de Rothschild Foundation, and Hassan Elziadna, one of the first Bedouin software engineers to enter into Israel's high-tech industry already 25 years ago. This call was organized because there's been many efforts and interests over the last 10 years to better integrate Arab citizens into Israel's high-tech industry and to expand the high-tech industry into Arab society as well as the rest of the periphery. And there have been some really promising results out of over these 10 years, with the number of Arab high-tech engineers and professionals growing from several hundred in just 2008 to several thousand today. Still significantly underrepresented as a whole, but an exponential growth. These efforts have included both placement and recruitment of Arab professionals into the industry and expansion of high-tech into Arab towns, especially Nazareth, and have included initiatives that have grown in the Bedouin Negev, efforts to integrate Arab professionals to enhance access to STEM education for young Bedouin Arabs so that they can envision a career in high tech. In recent research, however, conducted by the Edmond de Rothschild Foundation, has shown that, commissioned by them, has shown that despite these efforts and despite the potential benefits, there have been many more barriers and very few Arab Bedouin engineers actually integrated into the program. So today, about a year and a half ago, the Edmond de Rothschild Foundation commissioned research to map out the initiatives, to understand what the status is, and think if they're going to invest heavily in the Bedouin South, where socioeconomic gaps are greatest in Israel, what would that look like? What would the right approach be? And today we have the pleasure of hearing some of the findings of this research, recommendations of the way forward from Elli Booch, and to hear a little bit about the lived reality for Bedouin engineers who, or young Bedouin today, who seek to integrate into the industry, what those barriers are like day to day, what it's like to break through them. So with no further ado, I'm delighted to welcome Elli Booch. And as always, we have task force staff, Ilan Amit, Samer Jabal Masawa, who can respond to questions on chat as we go. We'll have about 30 minutes for the presentation and the rest for Q&A. Elli, over to you.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. It's great to see some familiar faces. Hopefully in the near future, we'll all be able to physically meet, not only, but through Zoom. So what I want to do in the next 20 minutes is very quickly just to give the context about the foundation and how we're connected to this field and how we came across about to commission the research, and then mainly go through the findings, the mapping that was done, the findings, and I think most importantly, maybe looking ahead at how we'd like to tackle this issue. And with me is also Ahmed Mouassi. Some of you obviously know Ahmed, who leads everything to do with the Arab community in the Edmond de Rothschild Foundation. So some of the back and forth we could do, of course, and questions, etc. So just very, very briefly, the Edmond de Rothschild Foundation, our focus is mainly in the field of higher education, but what we're trying to do in Israel is in general create an inclusive society, reduce gaps between the different communities in Israel, connect the different communities in Israel, and provide opportunities. We do it a lot through higher education. We have several fields. One has to do with the entrance into higher education, reducing dropout, and then the connection between higher education and employment. That's one of our main focuses these days. We're doing a lot in that direction. Other than that, we have leadership programs. Everything that we do is with the different communities. And the Arab community, since Ahmed joined now already 8-9 years ago, has really been has built into a kind of a strategic move, I guess, of the foundation. Within the Arab community, we have programs that have to do in different models that have to do with the entrance into higher education and the connection of higher education and employment. We do different models, and the way that we work is we try to test models, and then after we see that there's good results, to be able to leverage that, increase it, sometimes in partnerships with government, and sometimes with some of you, with other foundations, and we do it in different places. We never had a program that was focused specifically within the Bedouin community. We have many within the Arab community in general, Arab and Jewish together, of course, has to do with our leadership programs. And now when we originally we said, okay, high tech is an opportunity. We work with Tzofen. Some of you know Tzofen, and the issue of high tech in the Arab community is familiar. We said, let's see what's going on in the Bedouin community. And originally we were thinking of, again, testing another model, but then we said, okay, let's study the field here properly and see what the right move would be. And in this case, we're looking at a more strategic move and not necessarily looking at a project, not necessarily looking at a specific intervention. So what we did is we commissioned a research with NAS. Many of you are familiar with Ayman Saif and his organization today, and Research Institute, which is now gaining more and more experience. And they did 2 researches. One was just the original mapping, and the second had to do already with the assessment and the recommendations ahead. So that's what I want to present to you. We began with a number. The number is that today there's over 300,000 employees in Israel, in Startup Nation, in the high-tech field in Israel. Out of those 300,000, there are 50 employees which are from the Bedouin community. It's an unbelievable number, 50 people, that's it. In the entire industry, in the entire startup nation, 50 Bedouins. And that's amazing, even though we know there's gaps, and we know there's gaps within the Bedouin community. And what we tried to do here, and I'm going to share with you the presentation, is to look a little bit of how that happens, and we know that there's many reasons for that. So just let me know that it's okay. Everybody can see. One thumb up, Liron. Everybody can see the presentation. Great. So we're looking at the integration of the Bedouin society into high tech, and okay, there we go. So what we're looking here is, I'm sorry. Just a second. Multi-dimensional challenge is what we're looking at, because it's not one single point of failure. Of course, we're looking at a field that is information, meaning it's growing, but very slowly and only in the beginning. The whole idea of STEM and tech in the Bedouin community, some of you are familiar with what's going on in this field, but some of you, whoever's familiar with it, is the pioneers, the foundations that have began the projects that are there. We're looking at a multi-age challenge, a discourse challenge, employment challenge, and the numbers challenge. I'm going to briefly go over it, but in this quick presentation, I won't go over everything. Obviously, I could send to all of you presentation and obviously the full report where there's much more detail. So we're looking at a field information, not many actors. Again, some that are already there. Many initiatives are young. We don't yet see the results, and very few are at a stage where you can scale them up. And that's why we don't know yet what works, what doesn't work. There's lack of coordination and sometimes tension between the different actors. I'm sure you're familiar with it in every field. And the positive is that there is a beginning and there's potential partners that already exist. And it seems like there is potential. And with government now, etc., it seems like the timing is good. The multi-age challenge goes from early childhood to and elementary all the way to junior high and high school. And what we did is, or what NAS did is to map what the different challenges are in the different age groups, the local focus, the regional focus, the gaps in achievement. And we're looking mainly, of course, at STEM and what will lead then to high tech. The gap year, which I think is going to be a huge thing in Israel now, and the lack of gap year, I guess, as another intervention and model that helps in building skills, looking at academia and employment. And in each stage, I'm not going to dive into it right now. We kind of mapped the different parts of this multi-age challenge. The discourse challenge is, we're looking at a conservative community, not much awareness among the educators, and this is something we can discuss, but even, in this kind of a community, not I guess a culture of taking chances, of taking risks, of the startup-ish kind of culture. So those are kind of things, and obviously a very significant shortage of success stories. Then there's the employment challenge. We won't go into all the things that have to do with the business side, with the employers, with the employees themselves, the employers, I'm sorry. How ready are they? And we know from some of our work with Co-Impact, the different challenges we have in the businesses. There's also not much high tech in the South, we know, and even the 50, 60 Bedouins that are employed are all over the country. So there's not even kind of a network of even this small group. But now I want to go into a major challenge and look at the numbers here, okay? So one cohort, an age group of Bedouin kids born in 1998, 6,000 people. Out of them, we won't go through everything, but you can see only on 11%, 660, are eligible for math matriculation at 4 or 5 unit level, 1 out of 10, small percentage. And then you look at the numbers, and from there they decrease. So you can see this is like the pipeline, okay? And then there's the question, if you understand the pipeline, then you can begin discussing where would it rewrite to intervene in the pipeline and who is intervening where. So this is building kind of the pipeline. And if we kind of focus on the upper part of the pipeline, which is our interest, I was saying we're in higher education, look at this. Out of those 660 that are eligible for math matriculation, only 70 or 80 of them will begin studying in the high-tech fields. So that's very few. They've got the math, they've got the matriculation. They don't go to study. They go to study. Over 50% will drop out. So you got 30 to 40 to 35 that complete their studies, and around 10 on average per year will actually make it into the high-tech industry. These are the numbers. This is how we get from 6,000 to 10. And looking into these numbers and comparing them is I think the beginning. And doing this research, I think having the numbers now, they were there, but now having these numbers, I think that's everybody's gonna discuss this in the same language, and that's part of what we're trying to do here. And you can see the drop in each stage of this story. So now we're looking at mapping who is doing what and where. And I think this is an important slide. We won't, again, like I mentioned, we can't drill into everything, but at the top you can see from junior high all the way through academia to employment, okay? On the left, you see the different actors. You see the Ministry of Education and Higher Education, Tamal, It Works, Ajik, some of these organizations that you guys are familiar with, Siraj, and these are the different actors. And on the right, you can see the different interventions. Okay, teaching Hebrew, matriculation preparation, you have academic preparation, you have the strategy and integration. And what this map tries to do is to see what interventions are already being done and where are there very few interventions. And you can see here, for instance, gap year, academic preparation, not very many interventions. In the connection between higher education and employment, not many interventions. And you can see which intervention, where is there are too many actors, where are there not enough actors. I'm looking at this in general, but when you drill into this, that's really where the solution may be. Because if we all sit together, we begin to see the solutions. One of the things that happened in the process, and Ahmed, who's here, led this process. And one of the days, Ahmed came to me and he said, we convened all these actors together and all these stakeholders. And now, even without us, they're already continuing this roundtable that we began, even when there's not funding yet and everything, because everybody understands the added value there. So that's the mapping and getting together the different actors. So what are the recommendations in general? What we're looking at is a collective impact model, which some of you may know, where we're going to be working through a backbone organization called Shitufim in Israel. You get a project manager, and then you have you put together kind of a steering committee with the organizations and the program, with the higher education institutions, with the ministries, the local authorities, the employers, the different foundations, all the different actors around one table. And you look, everybody continues to do what they're doing. And I should say that there's a lot of organizations that are already doing amazing things. And, people like Josh Arnow and others from that you guys are familiar with are there already and are already doing things. But here the idea is not everybody's going to continue what they're doing in collective impact, but you come together and you join. First of all, everybody knows where the other is. Then you accompany research and evaluation, which is everybody speaks the same language. You look at field-wide projects like campaigns, like alumni programs. You do work groups in different fields: Hebrew, academia, employment, and this steering committee actually looks at, okay, where is there a need for intervention now? And suddenly government comes in, they get the map, you say, okay, yeah, there's government money, put it there. Or there's a foundation, a new foundation comes in, here's where there's a need for intervention, don't go there because there's already 3 organizations that are doing that. That's the idea of this collective impact that we're going to be doing, that we're looking at doing through Shitufim. And at the end of the day, we're looking at a future, if you remember what I was showing before, is doubling. Within 4 years, we want to get at least from 50 to 200, within a decade to 500, and maybe the numbers will even be bigger than that. But we need to double the amount of high school students that are doing 4 or 5 unit level of mathematics. We need to go from 70 to 350 students, from 35 to 200 who complete their studies, and then from 10 to 100. And you can see on the left, we're looking, this is what's going to happen within 4 years with people, that the cohort that was born in 2010, cohort that was born in 2005, etc. Obviously, these numbers can change, but we're looking now at a structure, and we're really in the process. I should say we're even in the beginning stages of a project with a picture of what we want to see in 2029, and that's basically the idea. And we're looking for more partners that will each come from their own direction and their own added value, and together to really build a strategic kind of national move. So I think my 20 minutes are up. So I tried to really do it quick, but we can go back to the slides and to everything. Once you guys have questions later on, I guess, in our meeting. So stop.
It's actually, I don't think we've ever had anybody finish at exactly 120 as you have. So it's
You asked me to to keep time. So
it's unbelievable. I think we could just consider this year a success. So please, thank you so much. I think that the presentation covered so much information in terms of the findings and an approach and recommendations. I think that there'll be a lot to unpack, but what will help us, Hassan, is yeah, you know what? We'll share the PPT with everyone. Just a minute. We're getting it uploaded, and I'll put a link to it. But I think what will really help before we dive into conversation is to hear from Hassan Elziadna what the lived reality is like. What's a journey? Now, I have to say that Hassan entered high tech, and you'll say this yourself in a minute, 25 years ago. So this is before any efforts had really been formalized around integration to high tech. But you're now bringing your children into the industry, so you really have a robust perspective about what this looks like. And I'll ask you to, after hearing the study findings, to sort of fill us the details what this looks like for individuals. See, please, Hassan, unmute yourself and.
Yeah, thank you very much, and thank you, Elli, for this presentation, and you put me on a challenge to stay on time, so I'll try to stay on time. My name is Hassan Elziadna. I'm a software engineer, which is working with the high-tech industries for the last 25 years or so. And I'm about 50 years old. I have 3 sons, 3 daughters. 3 of them are married. Putting me as a grandfather for now. Yeah, so I'm living in a unrecognized village near Rahat, which is a village that doesn't have electricity or running water or many of stuff that needed for the normal life. I started my working in a first high-tech company about 25 years ago, which is a bit different and was kind of by chance. I learned and finished with one goal in mind, and to be a doctor and to make my family proud of me as first doctor in the family. I failed them. Indeed, I did succeed. I tried to I register and get accepted to one college, one university in Germany, but then there was not enough money to do so. So I continue working as a shepherd for the family for about 3 years. Then I thought that maybe I will try to work out of the family and get some money and do any learning or any studying that is enough with the money that I have collected. And then I got to some practical college that started my software engineering or something like that. It wasn't even software engineering. It's like practical engineering for the computer programming. And then after that, by accident, just because I tried to get anywhere and find any job, I got to a company that tried to do software that support Arabic, and they needed me to help them with the Arabic that I know. They have some kind of requirement to do some work with the Arabic letters. They didn't understand how to do it, so I sat near the CTO and helped them making the decisions how to create that. But then I took the challenge to do it by myself, and I got my first chance to get to software engineering. 4 years later, I dropped to another company in Topia. It was a startup, and I was a team lead of 5 to 7 software engineers. I was, with my knowledge of practical engineering, they all have a degree, bachelor or another degree from college. And that was the first step. And then I found myself after many years and many companies doing team leading, doing many engineering stuff, and get promoted one time and another. And then I get myself into city innovation laboratory, which is considered to be the highest technology and the best thing. There are three laboratories all over the world for the Citibank, which has more than 250,000 employees, more than 40,000 engineering, software engineering. So this is very, very high position, and it requires undemanding very skills, engineering skills, and I find myself very lucky to have this. But the way to get to here was never easy. I live in a unrecognized village. We don't have electricity most of the time, and we don't have the water most of the time, but not even internet, not even to think about internet. I forgot about internet as well, because it's not something that need to be for living, but for the computer science, for the engineering, for software programming, you need internet as a very first thing and very critical thing. Otherwise, you will not get a chance to even for working even. So the last pandemic, the corona pandemic has faced us with some challenge to work from home. And when I try to work from home, I find myself trying to connect and rejected all the time because of internet problems and the lack of infrastructure that support high demand for this position that I have. So it was very challenging, and indeed still challenging to work from home. So you find me now today working from the office, and I get to the office much more than all the others. Okay, so there are many challenges to get to the high tech for the people that are at my time when I was first tried to find the job, and I found eventually the job a job in high tech. Years later, about 11 from my family, the big family, tried to start working, learning the high tech, and then find themselves without a job after that. I believe if they were getting the chance, they would be much more than 50 software engineers, Bedouin software engineers today, but somehow they find themselves going to be a teacher or stuff like that, other positions, other jobs. And in my small family, me and my brother and my other brother, we are three that learned software engineering, and we are three that are working today in a software engineering. But all of us, three of us, are learned practical in college. We didn't go to the university. We worked learned in a practical college. It's about 2.5 years, and you get a degree, and you can find a high-tech position. We are working in a high-tech position, and also my son, about 23 years after I learned, he also learned as a boot camp. In a boot camp, it's a 6-month learning, dense learning for the high tech, and he found a job as a programmer in some company in the south. I really can assess what Elli's finding and NAS findings about what is the situation and how we can improve it. I believe that the few things that have helped me very much getting to where I'm today, one of them is soft skills that probably are not something that we get to learn at school today, but we can develop that by time. And I feel like this thing, soft skills, have helped me very much to get promotions and get to where I'm today. We need to think about the community that we see today, that there are many obstacles, many problems, even to try to think that the high tech is not very they don't know exactly, they don't see exactly the impact of the computer engineering or the high tech in the field. There is a very deep digital literacy. People don't use exactly the internet the way that they promote and help them to get a better life. Not even people with a certain knowledge of other stuff, but digital literacy is very deep in the Bedouin community, and I believe if we're taking the story of me, my son, and my brothers, we really want to find the talents and precisely to find talents in school and after school and give them the chance to learn and get high-tech knowledge, and then get to a position and have success stories that give people the opportunity to see the impact and go to give a chance to people to learn computer science. A few years ago, me and my son joined the startup Negev, which is one accelerator that gives some Bedouins the opportunity to learn and to promote the businesses startups they found. And we got to the first prize, the first place, and won a decent prize, a decent amount of money. And we have founded a company, and even this year also the other son also promote another business and another startup. And it's very amazing to see that this impact in the last 2 years, how it made a change in the near family that in my family. I see more and more people interested and get to ask about how we did that, if what exactly we are doing, and more impact. So consider that we can do such thing in a more wide across the community, the Bedouin community. I believe that this is the key to have the change and make the impact in the community.
Hassan, thank you so much. And I know I have more questions for both of you. Let's open it up. I just want to build on what you said, the impact of 2 years of having of winning the prize. But I think that the fact that you came in as a role model and were able to open the doors for your kids, I think that speaks to a certain impact model of what it means to open the door for even a few engineers, and the cascading effect that can have in a community as a whole. I'll also say that in the prep calls, you shared with us that over COVID, you didn't have Citibank encouraged you to work remotely, and you didn't have the infrastructure at home. And so the Rahat municipality opened up a WeWork type of space where you spent much of the period. And I think that's a very interesting detail as well. I'd like to open it up for questions if anybody would like to ask either Elli or Hassan about the model. And we're still working on uploading the PowerPoint, and I'll have that link for you in a minute.
Okay, this is Lori Heller speaking. Hi. The Gilbert Foundation is part of the collective impact model that's been working in Beersheba for STEM. And this is something that I think we'd be interested in joining, Elli. And the timing is good. I'm very concerned about not having all the experience that's already been learned in the Shitufi model that we've been doing in Beersheba. and has been doing elsewhere, and that it needs to be separate concerns me a bit. Is it going to be the same staff that's doing the Beersheba, or it's going to be different staff? Do you know, Ellie?
Yeah, well, we're not there yet. I think because we're still in the process, and this isn't something that tomorrow is up and running with Shitufim. I'm familiar to an extent of the collective impact model in Beersheba around STEM. And I definitely think, following even just our conversation right now, and Ahmed is here, we need to, create that meeting and look at this together. Because definitely the idea is not to create, more competition to everything that's already going on. So it's learning definitely from what's going on in Beersheba, but taking from that to the Bedouin community, of course.
And so you haven't figured out how to structure it and stuff like that yet?
The basic structure of the collective impact of backbone organization of someone who's running it, yes, and and there's the experience of collective impact that Shitufim has from what they've been doing, but the specifics, we're not there yet, and that's why I think a meeting and learning from what's going on in Beersheba around STEM is definitely relevant.
Okay, so I'd like to, I'm not traveling yet, but I'd like to follow up this with other conversations, because I think it's something that Gilbert would be interested in, but it's got to be structured in a very smart way using all the expertise. One of the things I learned in meeting in one of your offices about 2 years ago is when the head of Apple came and he talked about getting girls in high tech. He said, you've got to start in middle school with programming. It's not going to work. That's something I've used with RCF since then to make sure that things start early enough. So I think we have to make sure that all the experience and the expertise and the failure of the Sami Shamoun 100 engineers and everything is really learned from in a very complete kind of way. And I agree with Mahmoud, been funding programs at Ajik where there's a tremendous amount of focus in on soft skills. And without the soft skills, Gateway is very focused on soft skills as well. So we really have to make sure that all the expertise of all the people pushing for these efforts, I didn't see Yana Bia's name up there. I'm not sure, maybe it was there and I missed it. We have to make sure that everybody's there.
Agree. And
There's
we'll follow up, Laura.
Yeah. We're in the same time zone.
Yeah, great.
And on the chat, there's a question by Jason. Are you also aware of the Top 15 collaborative that is being organized through Shitufim?
Yes, definitely. We just joined the Top 15 collective impact, and this is going to be like an arm of that. That's the idea, is really to put that under the umbrella of Top 15, obviously to everything that's relevant there, because Top 15 goes more towards the younger ages. It goes to all the way to high school, and we want to go all the way up to employment, but we're definitely under that umbrella.
Can you, for those who are not aware about what Top 15 is, can you say a few words about it?
Sure. Yeah, sure. It actually just got a big boost with the new Minister of Education. Basically, Top 15 is a collective impact model together with Trump Foundation and others that is focused on, I guess, STEM in mainly middle school. Khativat Benaim,
Yes, middle school.
Middle school. Okay, yeah, I'm correct. So it's going to be focused on middle school, but it's now going to go all the way down to kindergarten. And there was the idea is to bring Israel to be one of the top 15 in the tests that you have in the 10th grade, in the PISA tests. Israel today, I think, is ranked 30 something or 40, and to bring it to the top 15. And that will be able to be done only if there's going to be a focus on, Arab community and other periphery communities, because that's where the big change is going to come from. So that's part of that. But top 15 is for everyone. It's not specific to a community. And just last week, I think it's important to note that the new Minister of Education kind of announced that high tech is going to be, they're going to have a program of high tech from kindergarten and on, and they're going to start in middle school with 150 million shekels in a pilot and this and that. So I don't know how right the numbers are at this point, but it seems like that's going to be one of her kind of strategic moves. So it's going to give a big boost to top 15 and also to this initiative within that.
A word about the PISA test for those that I think that this speaks a little bit to Michael Hirschhorn's question. PISA is a critical thinking test, not just a STEM test, and I think and so top 15 probably speaks to your question about what about students not only interested in STEM. I think there's also maybe Elli, you want to speak a little bit to the strategic decision to focus on STEM as opposed to the myriad other gaps, and on high tech as opposed to myriad other gaps in Bedouin society. I think there's a real insight into the potential for change by focusing in one vertical, both in testing the model and on this issue specifically. Because if you saw in the chat, Michael asked, what about people not necessarily interested just in high tech?
Okay, so first of all, I'll say the focus is on high tech in this initiative. However, not necessarily and not only STEM. I think Hassan mentioned it, and that's very clear. Lori mentioned it. The issue of soft skills is critical for the high tech. It's not STEM. It's not, so everything that will result in creating that 50 to eventually 500 in the high tech, and it's not only the STEM focus. The reason to focus on this is because it's a focus on excellence. Obviously, it doesn't fit everyone. It's not going to solve all the issues of the Bedouin community. The idea here is to create more role models like Hassan and his family. And even from Hassan's story, you already see the quick impact it has on the close circle. And obviously, if we have 500, then there's an impact on thousands. And that's the idea here, is to create those role models and those success stories, because that will bring younger people, you see, he's younger kids to have that dream. I can do it too, etc. That's the idea here. Obviously, there's going to be others that need to be focused on other areas, and it doesn't fit everyone. And even the numbers, even if we go to 500, it's still very small numbers, of course.
Alan, and then Dan.
Hi, thank you, Hassan and Elli. This is excellent. So the question that I have is, so I think Lori had said, and you as well, Elli, that you really need to start with younger students and so on, but that's going to give us a very long time until we feel the workforce benefits and the communal benefits and create these role models. So what pathways in higher education are there? And here I want to go back to, I guess, what Hassan was saying, where his example was going to a practical engineering school and his son going to a boot camp rather than to, let's say, academic colleges and universities. Is this a desirable and feasible pathway into this kind of employment for members of the community? Or might it be better, or are there risks associated with it?
Well, we haven't made a decision, and I don't know if we will make a decision on the preference between the different tracks. There's the academic tracks, and you need to go to that track if you want engineers at the end of the day. But obviously there's the practical engineering and there's the boot camps, which is altogether, something that's growing more and more. We're going to see more people entering high tech without an academic degree. That's an issue in and of itself. But we want to look at those different tracks, and those different tracks will fit, I think, different people. I would definitely not only focus on the practical engineering track, with a message of saying, okay, the Bedouins, if they want to go
I don't
they want to go through practical engineering.
Right. We don't want to create a second class, but
right. So that's why we need to find a balance. And regarding the interventions within higher education, at least as a foundation, I know that that's something we have a lot of experience in what has to do with preventing retention and reducing dropout rates, and all kinds of different models of mentorship and of internships to within the academic world that will help bridge that gap towards employment, and specific interventions that have to do with the specific community. So it's going to be about figuring that out, seeing what's already out there and what needs to be added, and what happens in other communities and can be kind of integrated to the Bedouin community. So those are things that we still need to figure out.
Okay, so I actually have a follow-up question quickly about the practical engineering thing. In the U.S., it seems that these colleges or programs are roughly analogous to American community colleges, right? Where you would get the equivalent maybe of an associate's degree or a 2-year degree. Many community college programs have what they call like stackable credentials, where you build towards a degree and where you can even go into the workforce, come back and sort of build from a 2-year degree to a 4-year degree. And just wondering if that type of thing is even done in Israel, or are these sort of firmly separate tracks?
No, I can say that you can get credentials from your practical engineering that will give you accreditation towards your engineering degree. Yeah, we do have that. You don't get the full 2 years, you get most of it, but yes, that is a possibility.
Hassan, did you want to say something before we move to Dan?
Yeah, I want to add to what Elli has mentioned already, that there is a high demand for the software engineering in Israel, a very high demand. We feel that, and I've been asked to add Bedouin people from my community, and I feel like, okay, I don't have any. So we may need to target immediately the high demand, and by encouraging more boot camps and adding more people, just to be some story that has entered the high tech, and then a long run, we need to encourage also the universities and learning to get a degree. But I feel like many people have asked me, and the main concern was, I'm not fit. I will not be fit to high tech. So they don't even approach this field and feel like, okay, we are going to be rejected. So we need a very, very good stories, and also we need to get a very quick path to get to the high tech by providing and encouraging more boot camps to the community.
Thank you. Yes, point well taken and important. Dan, do you want to ask your question? You're muted.
And was incredibly useful way to think about issues. So useful, I was just curious whether we could extend it, or you have extended it beyond high tech, and to what extent that people fall off the program, where do they fall to, and whether there's interventions that might be useful there, recognizing that this is not what you're dealing with, but just to question whether this framework can be used in other ways.
I mean, I think I'll say something, just that this is part of our conversations in preparation for this call, that the idea of findings and focusing on something specific lends itself to thinking about a collective impact approach on another set of issues. But I'll let you speak for yourself, Elli.
No, I think that we really need to put thought into. There's an advantage in focusing, saying that 50 to 200 to 500, and we're focusing at the end at those at the end of the pyramid. But this I agree with you, Dan, that this kind of whole initiative, will double if we manage to double the amount of people now with a proper that go into universities. Even if they don't go into high tech, they already have the mathematics, etc. Where else can they go? I think there is something to be said for creating a second circle, that you say, okay, certain amount of people are going to go to the top of the pyramid, but others that won't, here's an alternative. Now, we haven't thought that through yet, definitely, but I think it's a good point when you're doing such a strategic move to also look at that second circle.
We had questions on chat about jobs and what thought is being given to creating jobs as part of this initiative, and another one about infrastructure and those barriers. If there's any, if addressing infrastructure issues is part of the initiative. I think.
Well, I'll say for the initiative itself, we're not looking at creating infrastructure and jobs. What we are looking to do is around the table to put the business companies themselves also there. So if this move is strong enough, then I hope that one, some of these businesses in the South are going to be able to grow. Maybe also other businesses that are in Tel Aviv will want to create a southern branch. There's Siraj is a business that is pure business and is taking specifically people from the Bedouin community. So out of those 50, I don't know, half of them, I think, I don't know, maybe Hassan knows, many of them are already in Siraj. So that could be definitely something that will grow the business and create jobs as well. But it's not like a direct, that's government. Now, if government is in that, then, and we can get government to do strategic things and impact the policy there, then that could be a result of it as well.
You also, it's not only the companies that'll be around the table. You've also spoken about, can you speak a little bit how the clusters are going to be around the table and why clusters are an important part of implementation?
Oh yeah, right. It's a good point because I didn't mention it. The clusters and the way, one of the things that is happening in Israel more and more, there's more strength to the clusters, which is the regional kind of there's the there's the different communities, the different cities, and then there's the clusters. So in the South we have two clusters, the Eastern and the Western, and they are going to be around the table. They're actually a main partner of this whole process, and that's because their strategic look at the community as a whole. That's the only place where they will see the Jewish communities and the Bedouin communities together in the one cluster. And we think that that's something that could not look only specifically at Rahat or at a specific town, but rather look at a cluster where there's Jews and Bedouins and create that connection. So the clusters are kind of a main focus here.
Ilan.
But I actually want to ask Hassan. You started your way in the high tech industry 25 years ago. You basically, you broke a circle. You started from scratch, and now your kids are slowly making their way into high tech initiatives and startups. Do you see a change in the challenges? Do you see more and new challenges coming into the picture, or do you see some of the challenges somehow disappearing? As someone who can see the issue through two generations in the Bedouin society.
Yeah, exactly. Many years ago, 25 years ago, when I started trying to find a job, it was very challenging indeed. If I wasn't different, I wouldn't be finding a chance to work at the high tech. I know Arabic, so that was give me a chance, by chance, not by accident, indeed. I think without that, I would be very not today, not in my position today. These challenges have become very more lean, more and soft. And today, Nasser, we started at the high tech a year and a half from a year and a half ago, and he find that much more accepting and much less challenging to find his job. I believe today there are more opportunities. The industry is more open, and there are many authority programs that encourage to hire Bedouin and to have inclusion, which is make it even easier. We need to ride in this wave and get more to more people, more to the Bedouin, to the to the industry, to the high tech. And I believe first, because they know I made it, I succeed. They find a success story at home, and it feels like, okay, it's accomplished. We can do that. But we need more of that. We need to have this more in the media and people to know and get the feel that it's doable. We can do that, because the feeling I see, what I see in the community is that, okay, there is a barrier. Technology is not for us. There is a literacy, a digital literacy that says, okay, we are not going to this field. We cannot do it. It's not achievable. The industry will not accept us. But once we provide the success story, it's much more, much less challenging.
So we only have a few minutes left and a couple more comments and questions on the chat. I'm curious, one of them is about the findings, more specific findings about the mapping of the initiatives currently involved, and if there has been an evaluation. I mean, you spoke about needing a multidimensional approach that incorporates greater coordination among civil society. Can you speak about, I think I'm saying her name right, Rennie's question about evaluation of current initiatives on the ground? She's asking, I'll read it specifically. Is there any evaluation of impact of the programs that you listed in the presentation?
I think that's part of the process. During the research that we issued, we mapped the programs, but we did not yet do, obviously, some of the programs have their own evaluation and results and measurements of effectivity, but that's something that would be part of the program. What was done right now is just the initial mapping of who does what. A next stage of something that in many cases happens during the roundtable of a collective impact is that you create measurement, which is the same measurement. So we now begin to speak the same language and measure the same things, and then the results of one is effective to the other. So that's something that's going to happen during the collective impact process.
Makes sense. We have a little bit more time. Is there any other question from the room? What are some of, yes, Josh.
I just had a quick question about, I didn't get to see everything that was on that kind of mapping chart. Was BGU and Sapir and other institutes of higher education part of the organizational mapping in terms of their role in this and how they function in the system?
Yeah, they were part of the mapping, but not yet, at least at this point, part of the roundtable. They will be once we begin. Part of it, they have to be. They must be part of the roundtable in terms of the stakeholders. I think that's going to be a significant. Yeah, that's going to be a significant part. I agree with you that they have a huge role within this.
We link to the there's a link in the chat to the PowerPoint. If you scroll up, I can put it up there again.
Okay, there it is. Thank you.
Okay, cool. So you can all see it. Brenda.
This really isn't, it's not a question. It's just, I want to express how thrilled I am that you did this work. And to my mind, this is exactly the right time to do this. You know, there are some familiar faces on this Zoom that we've been kind of banging our heads against the wall for the last decade or so. And there has been a huge amount of improvement. There's been a huge amount of learning on the ground. Most of the organizations that are working in the field are doing excellent work. They're good at evaluating what they do, but there has not been anyone who's seeing the whole picture. I think if you would have tried to do this 5 years ago, it really would have been too early. There needed to be a process of people being kind of entrepreneurial, starting their own initiatives, and realizing that this is such a complex problem, we cannot do it alone. None of us can do it alone. So thank you. I'm thrilled about it.
I think on that note, we promised our speakers a 1-hour commitment and have left time on participants' schedule if they want to continue discussing, but we have to say thank you so much. Yes.
So I will just say on that note, on Brenda's note, if it's okay, Liron, I just
of course, I was like, where are my matters? I have to let you respond.
No, just on that note, and I think it is the, you know, kind of maybe a closing remark. I think, Brenda, I think you guys, and I mentioned it earlier, were there as kind of pioneers on the ground. I think there's two things now that make this the right timing, I think, and provide a huge opportunity for this. One is everything that's already there and that's already happening, and all the learning that has already been there through these different projects. And two is the potential, at least at this point, with government and with the new 922 initiative, you know, for something major to be able to receive major funding from government funding, to really be able to kind of to create that jump that we're looking at now. So I think there is a huge opportunity right now. Thanks.
I strongly, I'm that person who actually reads all the reports, and I strongly recommend to read the report fully. It's especially the second part with the recommendations, very good work and a lot of good thinking ahead. Strongly recommended.
Yeah. Is the report available in English yet, or is that soon to come?
That's just what I've been asking for, Alan.
You have it in the link.
Can't share it.
You have the full report. We can send it again.
In English.
It's in English. Both the presentation and the report are in English.
And the full report is not a PowerPoint. It's a PowerPoint plus a full report.
Yes.
Okay. And is the link to the full report in the chat?
No, just it's a PowerPoint, but we can.
Could you please send it beyond the chat, because the chats get lost? Could you send an email to everybody on the call?
We will send a link with this recording and all the materials within the next 24 hours.
Fabulous. It could even be 48.
Okay, so I hope I'm not missing any other social cues that I might get in person, but not on Zoom. And when I say thank you very much to Elli Booch and to Hassan Elziadna. Hassan, I know that we can sit with you for hours to really understand the texture of what it means to have entered the field 25 years ago and now bring in a second generation. I'll just share with everybody that right before this call, Hassan talked about spanning really two worlds, going to work in one world and going home to another, and how much work it takes to bridge that. I think that speaks volumes. So thank you to both of you so much. And we will share the reports, the recording, and look forward to following up on this important issue. For anyone else who wants to sit around and ask more about what it means to be involved, we can stay on and answer questions or discuss amongst ourselves.